Welcome to Visibility by Design podcast with your host, Juliette Stapleton. In this show, I want to help you combine your marketing strategies and your human design potential so you can show up, stand out, and attract your perfect clients with confidence and ease. Are you ready? Enjoy the show. Hi guys, welcome to Visibility by Design with your host Juliette Stapleton, and today I have an awesome magical guest, and I want to introduce you to Shaney Woods. And Shaney, hello, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Shaney, you are a human design strategist, business mentor, honey creatrix. I'd love to ask you later on in the show a little bit about your honey because it's very interesting. We are here because we connected through social media, which is, I think, is the best way to find each other and connect. And we kind of checked out each other's content. And when I checked your content, there was a video that completely lit me up when I started watching it, because you were talking about your centers, your undefined centers in your human design chart, and how you needed someone with defined centered for, I think it was making a certain decision. And I just thought, yes, this is a great topic. Human design can be so confusing, and it's really good to talk about these practical things and let you guys give you some tips how you can approach your chart and how you can make the best of it. Shaney, my first question is, what is your relationships to human design? How did this happen?
That's a fun story. A couple years ago, I had a client who did human design with her clients, and she was like, well, if you're going to be my accountant, I'd love to know your human design. Let me give you a reading. Right? And she wasn't the reader. She hired that part out. And I got this reading and I was enraged. I was so angry with what I had been told. Like, I rejected it completely. I don't like the language. So I'm a 2-4 manifester, the hermit opportunist, right? That word opportunist triggers me. It makes me think of the greedy, manipulative used car salesman.
That's right.
And that is not me. I was told, because as a manifester, I don't have a defined sacral. I was told, it's a good thing you decided not to have kids because you're not here to create.
Oh my God. But I mean, there is a human design language, and then there's also things that people shouldn't be saying to other people.
I was enraged, but I'm a Sag sun and Sag rising, which means, well, now I've got to go disprove it. Right? My fire was started. I'm going to go disprove it. So I dove deep into it, read every book I could get on podcasts like this to learn more, found different mentors who's talked about it differently. And what I found was that the deeper I went, the deeper the truth got. I just needed a different language system for it. So I follow people who talk about, I'm fine with hermit, honestly, but it could be a wise woman instead. And opportunist instead of opportunist. How about the connector or the co-creator?
Exactly.
That feels way better to me. And instead of being told, well, you're not here to create, I was told what innate wisdom I have because I have the undefined sacral, and that I can touch all possibilities. So I am exceptionally creative. I just need to be in the energetic presence of another for that creation to manifest into reality. Okay, I can do that. So after experimenting it in my business for, 2-3 years, I finally, COVID hit. Right? And my business tanked, right? I'm an accountant. And when people don't have money, one of the first people they don't pay is their accountant. Totally get it. 100% respect it. But it gave me this opportunity to say, what do I love about my business? And what do I not love so much? And how do I amplify what I love and remove and excise what I don't? Well, the experiment of leaning into my own human design and what it had done for me and the casual conversations I'd had with a couple clients were really high on my list. And I now had time. So I did go the route of getting certified in human design, but not by the traditional human design course certification people, right? Because I didn't want the traditional stuff. I wanted somebody who was fully immersed in the new language. So I worked with a woman named Tiffany Purdy, brilliant. And I'm now actually currently mentoring with Chetan Parkin, who writes most of the well-known books on human design and was the first to break away from the traditional language. So I'm like, I'm bringing it all in now for me, for my clients. And what I've loved most about it is how much I've learned about my own strengths and weaknesses, right? There's nothing bad about human design. It doesn't tell me like anything I'm less than in any area. Nothing about it gives me an excuse not to show up. But when I get stuck, and this is the video and the post you were referencing, I was stuck. I needed a solution and I couldn't see it. Like, and I knew that I was struggling with it. And I have a friend who's a mental projector. So his head and ajna are defined and mine are wide open. I don't have a single gate defined in either center. So I reach out to him and I'm like, help, I need your head and ajna. And because we've talked so much human design, he totally understood. We hopped on a Zoom call. I told him what I was dealing with. And within, I don't know, 6-8 minutes, the solution occurred to me. And it was because I was now in the cycle of that energy. When I don't have it for myself, I can find it in somebody else.
This is actually quite empowering because even if you have an open center, I know I worked with a client just recently and she had an open throat and she said, do I have no voice? It just feels like if you don't have a color there, that there's nothing there, but it doesn't work that way. And what you just described, just being in presence, and it works virtually 100% just the same way, being in the presence with the person with that defined, or it's not that they give you the solution necessarily.
No, he didn't give me the answer. I came up with the answer, but it was being connected to that energy. Like it connected the dots. It connected my circuitry in my body so that I could get the answer for myself. I just needed basically to get out of my comfort zone, because my comfort zone is my exact design, operating with just the frequencies that I have.
That's a great angle to see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, we often find something like human design. For me, it was like, oh, permission to be you. I now see so many people using this phrase, even though it came to my mind. I know for a fact I didn't see it somewhere. I said, this is a permission to be me. But I think that's how a lot of people feel. However, what you just said is that sometimes that could be also your comfort zone. That means that you're just getting stuck in who you are and you're not seeing the potential and the wisdom. And this is one thing that I liked about the source, like Ra's angle. It was all about open centers are your wisdom. But I think that everything I read or heard from the beginning, I failed to understand. How do you tap into the wisdom? Exactly why you said, because the language was off-putting, the language was disempowering, the language was sort of shocking you into the system, which I think that was Ra's thing, was to shock the world into the system. But just like yourself, I went high and low looking for different angles on the same concepts, because I just couldn't understand, and it annoyed me because I wanted to understand. I wanted to know how to apply this. I wanted to connect the dots, and the language is horrendous. And yet, with the openness, what I am, and I'm on this buzz, especially this week for some reasons, maybe because we have this podcast, we had it scheduled, and it's just kept coming in to me, and it's all about the openness, and it's all about using the openness as superpowers, and then using your definitions as superpowers as well. Maybe, and now I'm going to ask you like human design expert question. Can we go through the centers and sort of talk about which centers? So if you, for example, have a defined center, how would it help another person who has an openness in the same area?
Sure. Love to share that. For example, I have a defined emotional center. right? For me, I'm here to own my emotional intelligence, right? To have all of the feelings. And for those of us with the defined emotional center, like it's the loudest center in the body. So it's like a thermostat turned on to high all the time, right? When I'm in the room, I become the emotional thermostat of that room. So I need to be very clear in who I am, what I'm feeling, and have the intelligence to respond accordingly to my emotions. My doing that actually gives everybody permission to do the same. So like when somebody is low, they don't need to use it as a whip, right? Just because you're sad doesn't mean you're depressed. Just because you're having a bad day and you woke up on the wrong side of it doesn't make you a bad person. If you got tempered with your kids, it doesn't mean you're a bad parent, right? We make all these emotions mean something about us. But in my presence, because I have learned to breathe so deeply into my emotions, acknowledge them, and just accept them for what they are and not try to fix them or solve them, I bring your emotional equilibrium to a still point so that you can feel the purity of your emotions without all the judgment.
That is so interesting. I'm undefined emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm completely open emotionally. And my
Ah,
sister is
emotional
defined.
empath.
Yes, and my sister is
Mm-hmm.
defined. She is an emotional generator, and she is exactly what you said. It's a thermostat. It's on. I think when she was younger, she wasn't controlling it. She's so much better now. Now I feel very comfortable around her, and sometimes she just goes into this, spraying of emotion. And I personally don't. I usually find that I'm kind of a flatliner generally.
Mm-hmm.
And she would be saying, don't take it personally. I'm just angry at the world. And, and it sprays out. And it's very interesting for me how I used to amplify this. And I know now how I used to, react to it and take it personally. And I just go into the depths of feeling bad about myself,
Mm-hmm.
about everything else. And now, as what you said, I think that that's exactly what she is at this age doing, is more understanding herself, understanding who she is, controlling herself, and being, responsible for her emotions as well. And it's just a completely different dynamics now when we're together. I actually really love connecting to my sister these days.
Mm-hmm. What I love, my favorite phrase to share with my clients is be a filter, not a sponge. Right? So in all the defined areas, which I have the throat, the emotional center, the will center, and the spleen, I'm transmitting to you. Right? So in any of those areas that you don't have those centers defined, you're receiving whatever I'm transmitting. Now, if you're just being a sponge, if I'm not operating at my highest, best frequencies, then you're taking in that low vibration energy and it can drag you down. But regardless of what I'm transmitting, if you are a filter and you filter it through your strategy and your authority, and I'm going to add your truth and your purpose, then you raise anything I'm transmitting to exactly the frequency you need in service of your purpose. Like you're not a victim of my energy and I'm not a victim of yours. That was in my reading. That's what it sounded like, that initial reading I got, right? Yes, Ra talks about the wisdom of the open centers, but it is a short little blurb compared to all of the massive amounts of talk about being your not self.
That's right.
Right? And independent to my core telling me I'm not me, that I'm acting under the influence of somebody else, like part of that rage was from that. And absolutely, if I'm being a sponge, if I'm what I would say being on the student path, I'm still learning, I'm not at the master path yet, then yeah, I would be operating and like, I believe you said you were defined in your heterogena, right?
Yeah.
So when we get off this call, I'm going to be having all sorts of thoughts, right? Because I'm picking up on this energy now. And what I need to do to be a filter, not a sponge, is just to observe, oh, I'm thinking. I don't make it mean anything. Just because I had the thought that maybe the spark of inspiration doesn't mean it's mine. It literally could be, I'm just picking up something you put down.
Wow, this is so interesting, because I think that the biggest question with the open centers.
Mhm.
And my daughter is a mental projector, and she's open from throat down. No, throat
Yep.
is defined, and then, and I can see how she is definitely acting as a sponge. And the
Mhm.
question is, in the practical application, I think a lot of times we just don't know exactly how to distinguish between what's yours, what's not yours.
Mhm.
You mentioned an authority, but maybe you have some practical advice. How do I distinguish that I am not a sponge right now?
Right. Did you say you were splenic?
I am, yeah.
Right. So your authority being that splenic center, it is truly an embodied response, right? The splenic center is the fear center, it's the adrenal responses. And for you, I think even in like our pre-conversation, you're like, ooh, I've got goosebumps, right? You have a physical manifestation when something is for you. So it's getting to know what that response is, because I guarantee you also have a response if something is not for you, and it will be different than the hairs raising, or it might be different hairs raising, like the back of your neck goes up when it's a no, but your arms go up when it's yes, right? So both splenic and sacral authorities, ask yourself a yes or no question. That's all you have to do, right?
That
Is
is so
this for
interesting.
me? Right? And then you pay attention to your response. That's it. Like, you guys have it easy. Then there's people like me. I'm an emotional authority. So my decision-making process can be colored by my emotions, right? If I wake up in a fantastic mood, then anything that's presented to me is going to come off as amazing because I'm in the best mood ever. Here's the truth. So Ra liked to say, there is no truth in the now. It's one of the most famous lines on all of human design. And I call bullshit. If you are truly present with your emotions, right, you're not letting them control you, breathe deep into your solar plexus and know what you are truly feeling, then there is only truth. So one of the very disempowering things that I learned from my initial reading, and actually it really took until maybe 3 months ago to get a new perspective on this, so it was years in the making, was that I just have to wait 1 day, 3 days, 5 days to make any sort of decision because I can't trust myself. Also very disempowering.
Yeah.
But I started doing breath work, also one of the gifts that came out of COVID. And the deeper I breathe into my solar plexus, the more blatant the truth rings out for me. So now if I'm in a quandary, I need to make that decision. Is this mine? I just have to breathe really deep. And then I know. You said your daughter, thank you. You said your daughter is a mental projector.
Yeah.
Right? She needs to talk it out, right? Not to me, not to you. It could be to a wall or a bird or just on her walk or through the waves. But the more she hears herself speak, at one point in whatever she's saying, it will be like a clarion call comes out of her mouth. Like everything in her will like feel it highlighted, neon lights, truth. That's how she discovers if something is for her or not for her.
That is amazing. Can I just go back a tiny bit to the emotional? Because we have a huge percentage of people with emotional authority in the world. Isn't it 60% or some sort of like a big, huge percentage?
Yeah, it's a very large portion.
And yet, if they follow and if they're newbies or just follow for a while, this whole thing about waiting, that's the biggest sort of storyline with the emotional authority.
Yep.
And yet, funnily enough, even though I don't have emotional authority myself, I did a design chart for my business, and my business is an emotional generator, which is interesting. Maybe a topic.
Splenic projector.
Oh, wow. This is so, and you know what, if you're watching this or listening to this and you're an expert and you're like, what are you talking about? Well, we're going to have a disclaimer here. All opinions here are of our own. And if we download this information and we say, this feels right for us, it feels right for us. And it felt right for me, so with that business chart, I started thinking about the emotional authority. And a lot of my clients have emotional authority. And in fact, I actually felt somehow, maybe because I'm splenic, but I always felt that it's not the right strategy for these specific people to be waiting, sleeping on it, that they are ready. When they were talking, they were ready for that decision. There was the truth speaking at that moment, but they were so over confused with the advice. And here is where what I'm learning about, human design, and I think it applies to everything in the world. You can't just take dogmatic teaching of something. You have to find your own truth. Don't be afraid. And what you just said, and thank you so much for sharing it with us, because this is one of those examples where your own truth will set you free. It's not going to be written in the book somewhere or somebody else said that. It's just going to come from you.
Yeah.
And
sorry, didn't want to interrupt.
No.
Newbies to human design and learning about their emotional authority, right? If they are not emotionally intelligent, then giving yourself space, sleeping on it, that's fine, right? But you don't have to wait until the question is asked by you, hey, do you want to join my program? Right? You don't need to wait for you to ask the question to check in with your emotional wave to see where you're at. How many challenges are going on right now on Facebook? 5-day challenges. We all know that at the end of the 5 days, there's going to be an offer. So why aren't we checking our wave on day 1, checking our wave on day 2, checking our wave on day 3? If this person presents an offer, how do I feel? Would I want to continue working with them? Right? That's the simple way to do it, right? As you're in the beginning stages. Somebody you've never met before making an offer that you have no relationship with them whatsoever, I do recommend sleeping on it until you don't feel like you're a newbie anymore, until you have really internalized being a filter, not a sponge, right? It gets to be evolution, right? We evolve from a student state to the master path.
Exactly, through repetition. So it's just giving yourself time and not expecting instant results. And that's our human problem in general, whatever the design. We just want everything now, even if we don't have a defined root center. We just want everything now. We don't want to go through the process of learning and repetition. But yet it's really true. And another ththing that rings in my head when I'm thinking about your story, about how you rejected your first reading, and okay, we'll put to aside the conversation about what a particular specific person should have or shouldn't have said out loud generally, because we're all humans and the way we interpret things is different as well. It's the same information can be just laid out differently. But it's and I forgot completely about what the point I was going to make. This is called Juliette Stapleton effect. For those people who follow me for a long time, they know, but it's definitely going to come back. Oh yeah, well, exactly. And it came back. And the reason why I said that, it was, we all have this story. And sometimes when we meet something at a service level, whether we're going to accept it or, be drawn to it, for me, it was really, I got drawn into it, even though I didn't like the language. I was, something was drawing me into it all the time. But some people like you, and I know there's a lot of people said, I looked at, I don't know, I didn't feel anything. Human design is something that does take a while. It is an evolution. It is an experiment. And it takes a much longer time than you just, expect to actually start really getting what it can, the doors it can open within yourself. That's sort of my experience. Do you agree?
I'm going to say yes and no.
Okay. Interesting.
Right? Human design teaches us that we need 7 years to fully embrace our design. Everything in me rejects that, right? The human me says, I want what I want and I want it now, damn it. If we go into it with following somebody else's dogma, right? Like you said, step 1, step 2, step 3, it absolutely can take 7 years. If we go into it and we take baby steps following the rules, and then we trust ourselves when we get that intuitive hit that we need to be going over this way instead, we can actually short circuit that time. Yeah, I still think it takes years to really get to fully embody where it's tattooed on your bones knowledge of human design. But if people just learn their strategy and authority and do nothing else, they are so far ahead of the game. It's mind-blowing. The strategies were a place where I also felt very disempowered. Not mine so much because I'm a manifester. I get to inform and initiate. Go me, right? But when I was learning about projectors, wait for the invitation. Doesn't that, like, what am I supposed to do? Sit on my hands? Twiddle my thumbs? No. So when I realized that any waiting that human design is asking you to do isn't about sitting stagnant, it's about becoming the person who can hold the container of whatever it is that you desire. Like, oh, and this was the splenic response, because like you, I have the defined spleen, and everything in me said, oh, it's about taking aligned action. Minute single steps that lead to an like avalanche of alignment. And it's about becoming the person who can have the thing.
I love that. I'm a projector. I'm a spleen projector. When I read about waiting for the invitation, there was I actually also have a yes and no answer to that, because it definitely has to do with big things in your life. So I was growing up, my first, the 27 years, the first sort of, what is it Saturn does to us for the
Saturn
first
return. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. All of it was about heartbreaking and looking for love from the age of 3 years old, literally. And I was falling in and out of love. I was looking for love. I didn't have really nice relationships with my dad to feel secure there. And it was all this, that was the topic of my struggles. I'm also 3-5. I'm also 1-3. So I have this 3, like I test everything, and it was really, really hard until there was the only one time in my entire life I was invited in relationships by my husband, current husband. So it was the only time, and that was the right thing to do. And it was the relationships that long lasting. We brought up a child together. We would travel together. Everything we do together. And that was a big invitation. However, in my everyday life, if I wanted to achieve anything, I moved to Dublin in the year 2000, and I was a singer before, and I knew no one, and I needed to get into the scene and start to get to know somebody in the music scene, and then, find somebody and form a band. And I thought, okay, what's the easiest way? Jazz standards, you don't need to learn them. You don't need to rehearse them. You come in and jam with people. And I knew a couple. So I just came to a jazz gig and took a few pictures and told people, would you like me to send you pictures? Give me your email address. I didn't even know I was a walking opt-in form, basically, for these people who were giving me these emails to send them the photographs. And what do? Oh, I'm a jazz singer. I never just sang jazz in my life. I positioned myself. And so through that, somebody said, oh yeah, great. Would you want to do Fly Me to the Moon? Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. I heard that song once. and somehow within 3 months, I'm, constantly appearing as a singer on other people's gigs. Then 6 months later, I have my own paid gigs. And I'm a projector who is supposed to sit on my hands and wait for an invitation. And yet that was, how I created that route. And that brought me to meet my husband, who is also in the music scene. And I don't believe that I believe in internal invitations. So what you said is about taking aligned actions, inviting yourself, feeling this.
Yeah, we tend to think of the invitation as like, Juliette, would you like to XYZ from me, right? You get the invitation from whatever you call your soul, your source, your connection to the divine, right? Those are universal invitations. And it's only when you trust yourself that you can clearly hear them.
It's so interesting. Actually, the word trust, one of the questions I really wanted to chat to you about is how when we work with people, when we are guiding people as coaches, for example, when we have a definition, how does it make our clients feel? And I know that because you are splenic and your spleen is defined, so you can make the person feel that they can trust whichever other things that you're working with people. And I was just hoping that we could maybe talk about different centers and how they can, if you have that defined in your chart and you're working with clients, how can that make the client or influence the client, make them feel, what does it do? So then we can use that in our marketing messaging, right?
Sure. It's funny because I think it's 2 centers can generate trust and confidence. Okay. Spleen, absolutely. When I'm operating in my highest and best frequency, the people around me feel safe. They feel like being with me is very peaceful, calming, an oasis. That's the word I get used most often. Being with you is just like being in an oasis, right? Which is wonderful. Now, if I'm not acting in my highest and best, if I'm putting on airs or trying to project something that's not true to me, the people around me sense it and they feel fearful. They feel anxiety and they don't know why. There's just like something about me that's rubbing them wrong, right? So it is always first about being true to ourselves, right? Everything in life, in my opinion, all of our gifts, all of our magic, our human design is for us first. And then it ripples out from there. The other center that's really, I wish more people had it defined. Only 30% of the population has a defined will center. It's the small triangle to the right of the monopole, also called the heart center, but it bugs me that it's called the heart center because it's not in the middle of the chest.
Yeah, it's confusing first when you, yeah.
Right? That's the center of self-worth. When you think about it, only 30% of the population has this defined transmitting energy. And yet I would say 99% of the population has a story about not being good enough or not being worthy or conversely being too much, right? It is so important for those of us that have it defined that we work on our subconscious stories, the ones that have held us back and made us think that we are anything less than cosmic glory. Because when we transmit that energy to people, they feel such confidence in our presence. They get this glimpse of their cosmic divine self, the fact that they are starlight taken human shape, right? Because that is the gift of the undefined will center, is tattooed on bone knowledge of our self-worth. And boy, can the universe use more of that.
Oh, wow. Yes, I'm getting goosebumps just as you speak. And actually, this is something I just had an aha moment in a way, because I was thinking, I really had a hookup, and we spoke about it on this podcast already about, being a sponge and not being a filter, and how does this actually really works. And right now, you just gave me the aha moment for me personally, where how do I explain this whole thing with definition and how it works and openness and how it works. And definition, that's exactly what you said. It's transmitting. So whatever you are with your defined center, you still have a non-self talk, as they say, you still have all these hookups if that's operating on the lower frequencies. But when you're finding your truth, you're also, you need to become responsible, because that is something that transmits to the world. So it's for you first to bring yourself up, but then whether you like it or not, we all interact, even virtually, it still works, as we were saying. And so it's kind of like taking this responsibility, because this is exactly whatever hookups you have inside, you're going to transmit, or whatever strength you have inside in that center, you're going to transmit. And that's brilliant, for us as coaches, just really working with the definition that we have and really bringing ourselves first, because it feels great too when you are in that higher frequency of this energy. But it's also being responsible when we're working with people, and that's one of the practical advice that we're kind of coming up with. Just really study into your defined centers and see what you're actually bringing to the people.
And then go back to being a filter, not a sponge, for all the places that you receive. Right?
Yes.
Because the person you're receiving from might not have done that same work. So they may be transmitting low energy, but we are not victims to their energy. Like, I cannot say this loud enough. We are not victims to our design, right? Everything in our design is a gift. It's funny. I get more clients coming to me that don't have the defined throat than nearly anything else. And so many people have gone down the human design rabbit hole. It's becoming more popular, which I love. I love that it's a system of self-remembrance, right? It's, look, this is who I am designed to be at my highest and best frequency. And I, as the human, get to choose to step into that energy. That, it's not a box that I get to like shove myself in and contort myself trying to make me fit. So the undefined throat, so many of them have been told that they're going to struggle with their marketing. They're going to struggle with their visibility because this is how we express ourselves. Now, of course, we use the language of speaking and talking, and that's true, but it is how we express ourselves. If you are a writer, it is coming through the throat. If you are a interpretive dance, right, that it's coming through your throat. So how do we empower people with a defined throat, right? I'm not going to be able to speak unless I'm in the presence of somebody. No, you will speak more clearly in the presence of somebody. But here, I mean, I think you guys with the undefined throats have an edge over somebody like me when it comes to marketing and visibility, because you have the ability to craft your words, your expression to fit your audience, right? I speak on one dial, one frequency, and my people have to be tuned into that radio station to understand me. So I have a very, I mean, billions of people possibly, right? But I have a smaller group of people that will resonate with my expression. Undefined throats, you guys can go from talking to high-powered, design-wearing, influencing-loving women, right, who have the perfect picture lives on Facebook, to talking to hippie chicky moms raising 4 kids that, you know, believe in homeschool. You can talk to both groups equally with as much passion and clarity. Like, it's natural for you guys. I'm a little, like, if I'm envious of anything, recognizing again that in my highest and best, I am perfectly designed for my purpose, it would be that. It would be like, I want to talk to everybody because I feel like I have something important that needs to be shared. So I've had to learn, I get to talk to people and they get to share with their people, right? So the undefined people get to put my truth into their own way of speaking or sharing or transmitting, and my ripples go out that way. I'm only going to talk to my small group of people on my radio station.
I love that. I have a defined throat as well, and I can totally relate to that. Mm-hmm. And I know I meet people and they say, oh, I can talk to people from all walks of life. My other sister said to me, why do you not like hanging around with different people? Do you think you're above them? And I said, no, it's nothing to do with that at all. But I have to, there is this thing that I can only really talk to certain people, and the rest, I just get so drained. It's just such a wrong thing for me, and I feel like they're repelled by me, so I try not to speak. And it's so true. I work with this wonderful woman just now who has an undefined throat, but she has the strongest voice, and she is so influential when she speaks. And yes, she can connect to completely anyone. It doesn't matter, because she's not bound to this one song that we have. And this is the beauty of trying to really understand, where is the strength? Where is the gift? And not just blame yourself and say, oh, I have no voice. How can I? And she was the one who said to me, I have no voice. And we're like, no. It's impossible, because we saw you speak on video. We know, like, it's impossible. And so what you just said really, really resonated. And I love this. You know, we covered so many brilliant things here. And, not only, the language of human design, just you can go past it. In fact, I sometimes say to people, if you start reading some sort of human design literature, and it applies in my gene keys as well, very confusing, too philosophical, too kind of out there, and there is no, like, just tell me what to do, how or not to do, just give me some practical applications. I always say, go and find people who sort of filtered it through maybe their own interpretation, and you will find someone out there. And I think, Shaney, you are a brilliant person to actually, use completely different wording, but yet you're putting the original message in a way across, and then it makes sense. Then you can go back to the original source. You won't get upset with the wording, because you're reading between the lines, because you already understand the angle. So it's not going to be so confusing. If somebody wants to we're going to just start wrapping up now. So I want to just, I know that there's going to be a lot of followers from this podcast that will want more of your wisdom and more of your voice, and actually your voice, which I love hearing you speak. Absolutely hooked up on it. So where can they find out more or follow you? What's the best place?
prosperityfirst.com is my email or my website. That talks about who I am, both as a human design practitioner and a business mentor. Instagram is Shayna's World, because I love to invite people into my world. They get to experience
because you can.
Because I can.
Because you can, yes.
I can. And then I'm open to finding me on Facebook. It's all good. I'm not great at social media, to be honest. That's a place that I loved that you reach out to me, because I said this year, I'm in my new solar year, right, is going to be my year of visibility. I am going to show up more often. I'm going to share my truth. I'm going to express myself, and I'm going to be the purple-haired tattooed accountant that makes honey.
This is
and then you reach out and you're like, I do visibility by design. And I'm like, of course you do.
They used to call me the queen of visibility. Who else will reach out to you when you put that intention? And as a manifestor, you can put an intention out and initiate it. And here we are, and we're recording this, and, this is going to happen. But, visibility is absolutely brilliant. Even if you're not good at social media, I want to just encourage people out there, because a lot of people say, I'm not good. You can make an intention, and you can just lean into things that really empower you. Share your wisdom, go on podcasts. This is a very pleasant and enjoyable way of being visible. This is one of the reasons I have a podcast. It helps me be visible and do it in a very easygoing, sort of lovely connection, great energy, lots of value shared. So it ticks so many boxes.
And it's perfect for my 2-4 profile, right? 2, I'm the hermit. I love one-to-one conversations. 4, I really want to network with people and connect, because that's how I grow.
And it's absolutely perfect. Exactly. Before I let you go, I do want to ask you about your honeys. And I know I am in Tallinn, Estonia, which is like the opposite side of the world, of the planet, probably. But I still want you just to give us a little bit, because this is very interesting what you're doing.
Thank you. I did this beautiful meditation. It was a self-meditation, and I saw what I would call my banquet of success, right? The food on the table, the people there celebrating and supporting me, the dance floor with, and the music going, the hat check room that, somebody was going to be getting a little wild in a little later in the night. I mean, like, my banquet of success was this incredible experience for me. And I saw this jar of honey. And as I looked at the jar of honey and thought, oh, I want to see that, it like flew to me. And I knew, because I had downloaded that I will be creating my coaching product, right? The next one is the Banquet of Success, that I would be making this honey for my clients. And it swirled with gold. It's like, oh, okay. Prosperity honey it is. So I'm a Reiki practitioner. I infuse my honey with intention, with Reiki, 24 karat gold. It is gorgeous.
Oh my God, look at that color.
Isn't that stunning?
That is amazing.
Yeah. Can you feel the energy just off the bottle? Because I can.
I do. Yes.
Yep. And it's funny. You can probably see I've got crystals all around me. I hold this jar almost more often than I do my crystals now. It's like I am interacting with that frequency of gold. So I had my breathwork facilitator say, Shayna, this is a brilliant idea. Please tell me you're going to be sharing this outside of your group, that you're not just going to make this for your clients. And I went, I could do that. Now, it was late at night. I wasn't sure how I was feeling, didn't really want to go in and do breath work. So I decided I'd sleep on it. I promptly bought the URL, prosperityhoney.com. And then I was like, and I'll sleep on it. Because that, if I didn't want to do the breath work, that's my authority, right? Sleep on it. And I've done stupider things with $12. So it's like, if I was out the URL, no big deal. I couldn't sleep for 2 days. So he and I had the conversation on Wednesday. By Saturday, the website was up for pre-orders. Manifester, right?
Brilliant. There's an example. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So as of yesterday, all the orders that I've currently gotten have shipped, and I've made my first $1,000 on it.
Brilliant. That is amazing. That is just amazing. There you go, manifestors. Listen to this. This is an example of how the idea comes in, you initiate it, boom, you don't have to do it immediately, although maybe you will end up doing it immediately, who knows? But because, we all have these waves, but there you go. And there's a result, and it's profitable. It's tangible results.
It gets to be. And I'm going to do, if you're willing, private message me your mailing address, because I did 3 honeys. I've got prosperity, activation, and visibility.
Ah, brilliant. This is
so
brilliant.
They all hold the intention. They all have the gold. They're different flavors of honey. They're all organic, non-GMO. Like, I went high end, but I held different intentions, right? Prosperity to open that receiver within. Activation, to learn to connect up and in, right? And then visibility, to feel safe speaking your truth.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful, and such a brilliant offer. Thank you so much, Shaney, for being my guest today. I thoroughly enjoyed literally every minute and the value that you shared and everything. And I hope that maybe you will be back again in another season of Visibility by Design. Guys, thank you so much for listening and watching, whoever is watching us on YouTube or Facebook. Let us know what are your takeaways from this episode. If you want any links or anything we mentioned, will be in the description or in the show notes to this episode, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.